of the reforms. Thank you.
Steve Darling.
Thank you, Chair, and it is a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, Mr Lee. And may I congratulate the member for Tunbridge Wells in securing this debate. Although Torbay is not in the South East, I'm sure that a lot of our SEND issues are reflected. And we recently had an Ofsted report in our SEND provision, and there was widespread failings for children with SEND and disabilities was identified. And although a lot of colleagues have highlighted challenges with local authorities, we also need to reflect that the health service need to play their part in driving the positive change that we need for our young people. And only yesterday at a continuous improvement meeting for youngsters in Torbay, health bosses just failed to turn up and play their part, even though this Ofsted report was under discussion. So I'd like to know from the Minister how you are holding the health system to account and not just local authorities and the education departments for this. One example of a failing that I'm aware of in Torbay is where a decision should have been made by the end of March for a youngster where their next year's placement would start in September. They were only told that their placement was going to be changed the day before they started their GCSEs, which shockingly enough, unshockingly should I say, sent them into a meltdown and underperformed massively. There's a couple of areas I'd like to particularly hear from the Minister, their reflections on. One is the safety valve system. That is a very much financially driven system, but I'd like to know what investigations the Minister may have made around how that may have driven any improvement for the outcomes for SEND pupils or not, and what their reflections are on the future of the safety valve system, because there are some real challenges with that. The other area that I really would welcome the Minister's reflections on is a system that is applied in Torbay, which is the ladder system, where you are quietly increased the level of intervention on your child bit by bit from mainstream to a high level of intervention and so on, until the right level is needed. But to achieve that level, the youngster has to have failed repeatedly in school. And so it is reinforced trauma, both for the youngster and the family involved, where there is failure after failure. And surely this ladder system cannot be appropriate for the youngsters or their families. And it seems a very wicked way, rather than actually sending those youngsters directly into the appropriate places. Just a couple of examples from my constituency. Rachel has to home tutor her youngster because the provision was withdrawn. Sian had to give up work because there was inadequate provision for her youngster. And a non-verbal autistic youngster had two really good offers for education, but neither were accepted by the local authority. So, in conclusion, I look forward to the Minister's reflection, because these, as identified by the member for Tunbridge Wells, are some of the most vulnerable youngsters in our communities, and they deserve better.